All right. Hello and welcome to Reach the Masses podcast, the show about two friends talking about the pop culture that they love. I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.
This is episode 4?
Episode 4.
We are episode 4. Who knew that we would make it to episode 4?
Who knew that we would be able to keep it up?
Keeping it strong. This one's going to be a little bit late. We had the best of intentions. I will go ahead and lay full blame, throw myself on the sword on this one. Work and life in general for me this week has been horrid. So I don't know what we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks because I'm going on vacation. I'm going to be gone. However, we might be able to, the day or two before I leave, maybe squeeze one in just so that we can stay on track.
I think we can at least make a valiant effort, give it the college try.
But this one's going to be a little bit late. No promises. I'm going to try to. This is Sunday as we're filming it, which typically we do this on a Wednesday, so it's a little off. But what we're hoping for is I can maybe get there tonight and edit and get it posted
Before you pass out.
Before I pass out, yes. So this week's episode, we will be continuing our discussion. We're back on Buffy, season 3. We took a break last week
to discuss
Doctor Who. So we'll be back on Buffy season 3, and then we will continue our discussion with American Gods, episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah, we're right with American Gods, so 4 and 4.
We're keeping it up.
And then we're going to continue the Would You Rather. We both kind of like that part of the show where we ended with some Would You Rather questions. I went and bought, actually, a Would You Rather game. It's not the adult version. I know, sad.
It's the semi-adult
It's
version.
It's the kind of clean party edition is the one that I got. But there are like 1,000 dilemmas. So Heather's got some cards. I've got some cards. So it's not just going to be me reading them. We'll take turns. We'll go back and forth.
We're very interested in keeping up with our decision-making fatigue. We want to make sure that we maintain that level of fatigue because it's psychologically healthy and, just something we're both interested in doing.
Yeah. So, with all of that said, I guess we can get back to Buffy, season 3.
Which starts with Anne.
Anne.
Because Buffy's middle name is Anne, Elizabeth Ann Summers.
Because we talked about it, if you remember episode 2, we talked about season 2, the brutal ending, which was probably the best ending of Buffy, where Buffy leaves. So this is the continuation of that.
This is Buffy's adventures in L.A. on her own. And of course, she doesn't have to look very hard to find demons. They come find her.
Now she's working as a waitress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is so weird. And I was thinking about this whole season in regards to pre-9/11.
Yeah.
Like, she has an identity. She has that in the first episode. And then the last episode... Oh, wait. Spoilers. I'm going to say...
Spoiler alert.
Right now, spoiler alert, we only mentioned the first episode of Anne and mentioned the ending of season 2. But other than that, we're going spoilers from here on out. So, spoilers, you've been warned. We're spoiling season 3. If you've not watched it, watch it and then come back. If you've not watched American Gods, come back. If you've not watched it and you just started listening to this, just jump to the very end and listen to the Would You Rather part.
Yeah. Or listen to it all and enjoy it anyway, and then go watch these wonderful television shows that we keep yammering on about. However you want to play it, it's fine.
But then at the end of the season, she...
Oh, this is back to the pre-9/11.
Yes, pre-9/11. Like, first episode, she has a whole new identity. Able to get it really easily, apparently, or just working
Right,
away.
yeah, it doesn't take the 10 grand. I've researched disappearing. It takes at least 10 grand to do it correctly and safely without...
Why have you researched disappearing?
Because sometimes a girl needs to disappear. And
you've like looked at like extradition countries, like
no.
to that point, like so there's not like a crime. You just want to disappear.
Yeah, I just want, like, I looked up how hard it would be for a person in the United States to just kind of walk away from life. And it would be at least 10 grand.
And you've Googled this?
Yes, you can Google that. There's all
after 9/11.
After 9/11, because there wasn't a Google.
So you Googled
pre-9/11.
Right. But you Googled how to make up a new identity.
Yes.
You are on a server somewhere on NSA.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, being in academia, I'm sure I'm on some lists anyway. But absolutely, I looked it up.
We mentioned at one time Black Hawk helicopters, and they're getting closer. The longer we talk about this stuff, I'm realizing Heather is more on a watch list than me.
Yeah.
And So, but what I was saying is that she got the identity in the first episode, and then at the season end, they blow up the school.
Yes.
And just the imagining, like, I remember a time, like as a kid, like, blowing up the school, like, how cool that would be, there's
right.
Like,
it was a funny thing when we were children.
But now, if you even mention it or talked about it, post 9/11 world.
Yeah, or post Columbine, or post any of the other mass shootings that have happened in this country.
Yeah, like I'm scared to death my kid already going to kindergarten just for the simple fact is that he is already starting to point with his finger and pretend it's a gun, and I'm like, that'll get you expelled. 0 tolerance.
Absolutely, yes, it will.
Or I'm afraid it will. So it's just ridiculous the amount of stuff. But this is a different time. This is another world where payphones ruled the world, and were still a thing, and cell phones weren't glued to everyone's hand.
I had a pager. For like 2 weeks, I had a pager.
And you weren't a drug dealer.
And I wasn't a drug dealer. I was just a normal human teenager who wasn't a doctor and wasn't a drug dealer.
I did a Real World Season 1 reference. Because wasn't one of the characters had a pager, and then they made a joke about, like, are you a drug dealer? And
yeah.
It was a whole big thing.
That was the early 90s. Nobody listened to this. They were probably born then. What are you even talking about?
God, I know. There was someone at work, and she just didn't get any. She doesn't get any references. And there was another person I told you a year or two ago who didn't know Ghostbusters.
Yes, you told me about that. Yeah.
Didn't know the theme. Didn't know nothing about it. And I just I want to weep.
Yeah.
For these people.
Absolutely.
That don't know these pop culture references. But then again, I'm sure they probably will throw out some references that
you have no idea.
Yeah, because I told you that one time. Like, what is ship? What does that mean?
I knew that one. Now,
I had to ask you for that one because I was like, "What is shipping? Why are they shipping? What's the cost? Is it free? Is it Amazon Prime?"
It's relationship. And apparently, smashing is now not something you do to bricks in Mario or in Legend of Zelda. It is sex.
Smashing.
So if you smash with someone,
I just don't think they know what they're doing if they're calling
it
smashing.
Just calling it smashing, right? It's like this denotes a lack of knowledge
on your part. Sorry, this generation. Which apparently we're millennials. Just so you know,
we're the old millennials.
Yeah, we barely made the cut.
Yeah, our year was the first year. Or my year, you were 83, right?
Well, they said. I think they said if you graduated. I thought they said if you graduated in 01 and after.
Oh, whatever I read
2000.
said if you were born in 1982 to whatever, you're a millennial.
Okay. I think the one I saw was that if you graduated high school in 2000 and on, you're a millennial.
Oh. You know what I am? I'm an old person who gets stiff whenever I sit down for too long. That's what I am.
So we're the old millennials.
Yeah. Who still have the car, the house, the kids, the job. Like we managed to do all that post-college life.
Yes. So.
After ranting,
Back
What
to
shall we
Buffy.
talk about now?
Buffy. Buffy. Anne, you were saying about Anne. What did you like? Did you like anything about that one, or is it just
It's
it
not
just
one
picks
of
up
my-
where it left off on season 2?
It did. Buffy gets on the bus. She goes to L.A. Not my favorite episode. I loved the fight scene in the, like, was that an alternate dimension they were
Yes,
in?
it was like they were kidnapping
Like a-
him and they were taking him.
Kind of a human slavery for the demons to do their work or whatever.
Right.
And it made them old, and then they just dumped them back in this
Yeah,
dimension.
time was different.
Yeah. Not my favorite. Liked the fight scene. But otherwise, I mean, you know, she's a waitress. She's running away from her problems, which teenagers are wont to do, which human beings are wont to do. But no, that one and the episode that followed that were not my favorites for
The
the
next
season.
one is Dead Man's Party.
Yes.
Nigerian mask reanimates the dead, forcing Buffy to battle a horde of zombies. Which actually, there was a couple of zombies in this season.
Yeah, the Zeppo had some zombies, and
The Zeppo or Zippo?
Zeppo. Zeppo.
Okay. And then, but this season, I guess we can just hit the high points of the season. Introduce a new Slayer,
Yes, Faith,
Faith.
played by Elijah Dushku.
and it also introduces her Watcher eventually toward the end, who goes on to become a big character in the
Angel
series, the spin-off series of Angel, Wesley
Wyndham Price.
Price. And Buffy, I mean, Faith is introduced on the third episode.
Third episode, Faith, Hope, and Trick.
And then Angel comes back in the fourth episode.
Yeah.
The Beauty
He's-
and the Beasts.
He's affected from going to hell. I guess that would have an effect on you.
Which this one is a really big callback because which one is it where he tries to kill himself? Angel.
That's a few episodes later whenever the original evil...
The first.
Yeah, the first is trying to get him to kill Buffy, but instead he tries to kill himself to save Buffy. It doesn't work. And the first actually comes back in later seasons of Buffy. They kind of recycle that, which was interesting to see, that they were able to reuse that. But
Right, because that was a huge callback from you didn't know how Angel got back, and there was that whole mystery, and
and he was kind of a wild animal.
he was feral.
Feral.
This also introduces Anya, doesn't it?
Yes, in the episode The Wish, Anya is introduced.
And Anya is a demon who grants wishes, gives them kind of a twisted thing of what they wished for.
Right. But that was a really good, like, alternate universe episode. Like, you would totally find that episode in fan fiction somewhere, I'm sure.
Well, and other series have done that. I know Star Trek they played with the original series as well as with Deep Space Nine. There was a mirror universe, a dark universe, and they've continued that where Kirk is bad and Spock is bad, and it's a different timeline, different dimension. I mean, they do that all the time in lots of these sci-fi genre shows.
Which it's a fun change. I mean, it's like the musical episodes, which sometimes get done by these shows. It's just a fun way to let the actors flex their muscles, and I suppose it doesn't get so monotonous for them.
Yeah, they get to try something different and new.
And that's where we also find out that
there's a Hellmouth in Ohio.
yeah, exactly. You knew what I was going to say.
There's a Hellmouth in Ohio.
And we meet
Is it?
we meet vampire.
Is there a joke about it being the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or is it just Ohio? Is it Cleveland?
It's Cleveland. It's Cleveland, Ohio.
So it could be the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It could be.
Is the opening to hell?
I mean, there's
Because,
a lot of potential there.
Well, when rock and roll first started, they said it was the devil music and all
right?
that.
Yeah.
So. But you get to see.
Oh yeah, Dracula. That's not till season 5. You get to see Vampire Xander and Vampire Willow, and it also has the Master back on it, which you hadn't seen since season 1.
That's right. Because the wish is not to get into every episode, but the general theme is that Cordelia hooked up with Xander. I don't think we ever talked about that.
They became a thing.
And then and then Willow hooked up with Oz. He was introduced the last season. They became a couple. And then what happened is that Willow and Xander kind of started hooking up, being more romantic.
Yeah.
And Oz and Cordelia found out about it, which actually runs into an episode where Cordelia gets run through with some rebar, where she falls. Which, fun fact, the actress Cordelia that played Cordelia, Charisma Carpenter, actually had that happen to her as a child, and the scar that she had was in the same place as the rebar in the show.
Well, that's fun. I had no idea.
Yeah, she at age 10, I think is what it said, was that at her, there were rebar. They were doing something with her pool, and it wasn't fenced in, and she slipped and fell, and it punctured her stomach.
That's horrible.
So the scar where she has the rebar was where they put the rebar going through in in that episode. So I think she was like 10 years old. But anyway, so long story about that, it was that they broke up. And that's what Anya, because she's a vengeance demon. And Cordy is all upset because of Xander and all that. So she wishes for
that
Buffy
had never come
came to Sunnydale.
Is that what it was?
And that's why we found out there's a Hellmouth in Ohio, because that's where Buffy goes instead of Sunnydale. She goes to Ohio, to that Hellmouth. And so the Hellmouth here gets left unchecked, and the vampires take over. And
Giles kind of forms an alternate version of the Scooby Gang, right? That has him and Oz and the football player, the one that was a real douchebag. He's one of the White Hats as well.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. I'm fairly certain that he was the one that was that came out of the closet later in an episode with Xander, or maybe before.
But was it Jonathan?
Maybe Jonathan was one of the White Hats as well. But he wasn't the football player I was speaking of.
No, he wouldn't be a football player, no. Larry. Yeah. And it had Harmony in it.
Who eventually gets minions.
Harmony has minions. But we have... and then finally, it just, it's a whole topsy-turvy world. Angel has been tied up as their pet because he still has a soul. And then Buffy comes and Buffy shows up and starts kicking butt. But then at the very end...
and it's not the Buffy that we all know. It's a darker, more...
taking the training seriously.
Yeah, World has kind of pushed her in the stone cold... emotionally stone cold direction.
Right. And anyway, the episode ends with Cordy breaking there was a charm, a necklace, and once she did that, it actually made Anya the vengeance demon human again, and so she's still a teenager, and she just kind of hangs out.
Yeah, she's kind of stuck in high school and in the life, and I use air quotes there, the life that she made for herself to get Cordelia to make this wish.
And she
posed as a student.
And she becomes a very good staple of comedy later throughout the rest of the show. But where were we going with all that?
I have no idea.
Okay. Another fine podcast brought to you by... But that was just a good episode. Doppelgang Land, right? So
that was the wish.
That was the wish. The other one
Doppelgang Land is...
it introduced Anya. We'll say that introduced Anya to us.
The wish...
That introduced Anya as a character.
Doppelgang Land brought Vampire Willow
back over
to our universe.
And then we also...
Another fun episode from that season, though, is Gingerbread. Do you remember this episode?
No.
That's where Amy, one of their friends that's kind of on the periphery, gets turned into a rat. It's where...
it's where...
They see, like, the boy and the girl, like the Hansel and Gretel.
Right, and then they think
but it's actually a demon.
Right, and then all the parents
Yeah,
go on
the
a
town
mission.
is like anti-slayer.
Is it
Moo.
Moo?
It's Moo. Mother's opposed to the occult. Which was fun. And it has one of my favorite lines from Buffy of all time that Buffy herself said. And that was at the end when she breaks the stake that she's strapped to. She breaks it and kind of bends over, and she
The demon
gets the demon right in the neck. And she's like, "Did I get it? Did I get it?" And that was just so perfect. And then Amy, of course, is the rat, which you see, which is something that follows throughout into season 6. She doesn't just turn into a rat and then go away. Willow keeps her, for lack of a better word, as a pet while she's still a rat and takes care of her.
The episode that we mentioned earlier with Angel is Amends, where the first comes and haunts him.
Amends, that's right.
Because that's the one where he's wanting to kill himself, and Buffy stops him, or they're sitting there talking because she was waiting for the sun to come up, but it becomes a cloudy day, overcast day, and it starts to snow.
Oh, and it snows in Sunnydale.
But that's a good call that they brought back that villain for season 3, a mention of season 3 of how he got there, to the very last season being the final big bad for the TV show.
Because, I mean, how do you defeat the first act of evil? You know?
Right.
Like, that's not really...
Which that kind of goes parallel with Angel, with his big overall bad wolfwoman heart. Like, how do you stop them? Because they're not in it to take over the world as a general bad guy would. Like,
right.
They're take over the world. They're doing it incrementally and causing people not to care. So how do you stop that?
Right. How do you send people to hell when they're already there?
And let me tell you, they are doing a bang-up job.
They do.
I know. I
Wolf
mean,
Ram
they're continuing to do it now. Things are going
it's still
smoothly.
That way.
Wolfram and Hart are doing well in that department. I guess we should. So talking about big bads, we can talk about the big bad for this one is the mayor, which is always it was kind of a fun twist because this is Buffy's senior year, and
she turns 18 in the episode Helpless,
and that's where Giles stops becoming a watcher because he doesn't approve of their practices.
And she kind of hands the council their ass and says, "I quit."
Exactly, and then but they have another Slayer, so that's not that. They don't see it as that big of a deal, and that's why Wesley becomes on the scene, is because Giles refused, or stood up to him at the end.
Yes.
But the big bad is the mayor, which is interesting because I think they hinted about it in season 2, which is what you love about this show, is that they give you hints for earlier. They plant the seeds for future episodes and seasons.
Planned out way in advance, and they're able to do that.
Which that's what I loved about Supernatural, the first 5 seasons anyway, because they had an overall 5-season arc. If it makes it that far, that's where we want it to end. And after that, that's when Supernatural starts getting muggled. But that's Supernatural.
That's neither here nor there.
But
at the moment.
But I think in season 2 they mentioned the mayor. Like, do you want to answer to the mayor? And they're like, the principal's like, no, I'm fine. Because
I remember that now that you say that.
Because with all this stuff happening, you would imagine that they would have to, I know we like to rip about politicians, but, obviously if all this was happening, the police department, the mayor, somebody would know about vampires or demons. It wouldn't just be localized to this one high school.
And there's also that reference whenever Spike attacks the high school in season 2, and the principal's like, just say it was PCP. Which is funny now. That wouldn't work now because PCP is not really a thing.
It would be meth.
Yeah. Just say it's meth, which wouldn't work at all.
Or bath salts.
Yeah, bath salts. That could work.
Bath salts.
But, so obviously, politicians in the town knew what was going on. Which I think by the time we get to the prom, we understand that everybody kind of knows what's going on. It's just one of those things that's not talked about.
Which the mayor's big thing is he's wanting to ascend. He wants to become a demon.
Giant snake demon.
But the thing about that is that this is where it puts again, laying the foundation that it says all demons and all, vampires that are in the world are not pure demons.
Exactly.
There's
they're
some sort of
half-breeds.
they're a mixture of human. There's some humanness in there for them to be here. So he's wanting to become a pure demon,
which are very gigantic. That also sets the stage for that, for them being.
That's where I was going.
Huge. Yes, sorry.
No,
Take it away.
No, being huge demons. Yeah, and then that leads the stage for the last season with the vampires because those are pure vampires,
yeah,
and not mixed with human at the very last season. So he's trying to send, and then he does a ritual, and it's actually, he's very much, there's some, they play it for laughs with the mayor. There's a lot of humor with him because he's very much like clean freak,
yes,
like germs,
he's the like conservative family guy.
Like Mr. Rogers, if Mr. Rogers wanted to become a big snake demon.
Yes, absolutely. Except his values were a little more conservative, which worked for the funny even more. Because Mr. Rogers was,
Because there's a part where he does the ritual to the ascension and he can't die until he ascends. So it's like he's basically immortal.
It should also be mentioned here that
he is immortal. Like he's lived a long life.
Yeah,
too.
he has. At least since the church collapsed. That trapped the master.
Okay.
But it should also be mentioned that Faith turns bad and starts working for the mayor.
She's no longer 5x5.
Yeah, she's no longer 5x5. She thinks Buffy and them hate her, which, they come to hate her because she turns into a gigantic bitch. But, she starts working for the mayor and she finds that father figure or that parental figure that she's always wanted and needed. And he even gets her a PlayStation, which at the time was a big
huge.
deal.
Yeah, a PlayStation, no less. So that kind of all that leads up. And there's several good filler episodes in between there. The Zeppo is really good episode. I love that episode just because it turns it on its head, because they're talking about the Hellmouth opening, and you would think that would be something that would be very focused on the main Scooby cast and Buffy and Angel and Faith, because this is before Faith goes bad, so it's all like, we're up at arms, let's go. But then the main story is following Xander around, and like they're keeping Xander out of the fight, and it follows his wild adventure.
Yeah, he finds himself in his own sort of trouble.
He's the main story, with that Hellmouth opening being the secondary, because there's a huge thing toward the end where the Hellmouth's open and Xander's dealing with zombies and vampires, and it kind of leads Xander to kind of be his own man, because he was kind of doubting his role again, which is a kind of a theme for Xander. Like he always doubting himself, even until the last season he's doing that. And that's why when I mentioned in season, when we first started talking about Buffy, that I don't think he grows the least, because he's still there, like his place among the group.
Yeah, because he never comes to have any kind of special. He's what in season 4 they call him the heart of the group, but he never comes to have any like special powers. He's never a witch. He's never a demon. He's just a regular guy. He's white bread, is what he is.
And they try to give Xander moments throughout the entirety of the show. Like he saves Willow, he has that moment, and then, the biggest thing they give him is carpentry.
Yeah.
At the end, like I can build things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that continues.
It cost him an eye.
Yeah. That continues on in the comics, in the Buffy comics, right?
I'm not familiar. I've followed with the Angel comics after that one.
Maybe it was in an episode of Angel where they mentioned that he's like in Brazil building houses for the homeless or something. I can't remember, but there was something like that. It was like a throwaway line.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, so we know what Xander was doing.
Yeah, out of all of them, Xander, and really Buffy too, doesn't really, like, she has an arc, and then they have to kind of do with Xander, they kind of hit a reset button. Mm-hmm. Like any kind of growth he has, they kind of backtrack. And in the new season, he kind of starts with, where's my place? What am I doing?
Yeah, which is, I guess that's
so the show can continue on.
His quirk, or what his character was there for, was to constantly be like kind of the viewer questioning. Because I know as I've gotten older, I still question my place.
And that's kind of leading up to the graduation and becoming an adult. And I guess Buffy and Angel trying to build back the relationship after he becomes non-feral. And they kind of, most of the season is, will they, won't they be together? Why can't they be together? And it ends, well, Angel ends it at the prom. That they stop being a couple. He ends it.
He shows up, and then that's kind of for their relationship. And
then he shows up at the graduation to help, and then he walks away at the end. They don't do any kind of hug or goodbye. He just turns and walks, and then he goes off and does.
He goes to L.A. and
does the spinoff of Angel, and Cordy goes with him. And
she doesn't go with him.
They meet in L.A.
They meet in L.A.
But the character Cordy goes with him in the show.
Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of how season 3 is. I mean, it's kind of a good analogy. Just don't know what you're going to do, and except
I can't remember.
I was going to say, you remember high school? I was going to say, you co-opted, so you didn't really...
Yeah, I already had a job, and I was already kind of a grown-up. So I don't really remember that transition. I think it happened all through my 20s, actually. Or maybe that's what it is. I'm still in that.
Because you were
Arrested Development.
You were done at, like, what, 10:30 every day?
Depended on the semester, but yeah.
Okay.
Anywhere from 10:30 to 12:30. And I was finished.
But that kind of wraps up season 3. It was a very good episode. It really picked up steam from the season 2, which I still think is the best season. Arguably the best season of Buffy. The next season is kind of the meh.
Big things happen, but it's not. And funny things happen.
Beer bad.
There's
it continues on. I think the last season is probably the weakest.
Yes, absolutely.
A season of Buffy, because it's just been going on too long. I think season 5 again should have ended it, because that
was the original plan, right?
I think so. I mean, I think
that's also when they switched networks from the WB to UPN.
I think that was the original take, but if you think about it, like, well, if it didn't end, we wouldn't get Once More with Feeling,
right, which was a fantastic musical episode.
There are moments in the later seasons that are worth it, but overall, I think it still should have ended, because it kind of wrapped up. Like I said, it wrapped up her story. Death is her gift. And
now that's all I hear whispered in my head is, "Death is your gift."
Unless you're playing black and white,
and then it's just death.
So that's great season. Picks up right with season 2 and just hits the ground running. And I think that's where it starts to break up, is because season 4, Buffy's college, Buffy the college years.
Yeah, it's freshman year of college and
continuing to grow. Season 5 still got college in the background, but it's mostly dealing more with I think season 5 is the more big bad, because kind of like the first 4 seasons, there is a big bad,
but it's still dealing with life stuff. And then season,
but it's 6, more in the background,
yes,
until like the last three or 4 episodes. Then it's really prominent.
And they try to change that back in season 6, but it comes out not really working that well, because
who was even the big bad in season 6?
Season 6 was
that
Willow. That was Willow.
Okay.
And it just
didn't.
It chased all the lesbians away.
Although that does throw out the line of strawberries.
Yeah, which was fun, and I love that actor. But it couldn't reach that magic that it used to have. And there were just too many filler episodes for me in season 6. It wasn't enough. There wasn't a big enough arc.
Yeah, season 5 was still growing. And
it was on a different station than Angel then, too, so you couldn't have those crossover moments.
Did they not do them?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah, they did.
What episode?
The final season of Buffy, because Angel shows up with that medallion and gives it to Spike.
Yeah, but that's it.
Okay.
Like, after season 4, there was none of that.
Well, then because there wasn't that much, because
she goes to his show, he comes to her show. It happened a few times.
But another Willow came over.
Yeah.
Red Rover, Willow come over in season 4 of Angel, when they were on the last season.
Was that the last season? No, they made phone calls in the last season because last season was Wolfram and Hart. It was before that. It was whenever Faith was there, and Angel had one more season after Buffy ended. Because
because that was
she and Fred.
Yeah, because that was season 6 of Buffy because Willow had just gotten over the bad mojo of being a. Well, that's what I was thinking. It was season 7
of Buffy, and it was the season 4 of Angel, which was before Wolfram and Hart, which was season 5 of Angel. We know things. We know lots of things.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like this final season of Buffy, you had Willow coming over, and you had Faith going back over to Buffy.
Mm-hmm. But Faith wasn't contracted to any network or anything.
But Willow came over in season 7 of Buffy was season 4 of Angel.
Yes.
And then season 5, you didn't have anything because Buffy had ended, and they were trying to get Buffy in for that one episode, which I think would have hindered it more. It was more funny to have her not be there, the girl in question, where they go to Italy.
Oh, yes.
And she's with season 5 of Angel. She's with the Immortal. Buffy's with the Immortal, except with a guy named the Immortal. I'm just going to say Immortal a couple more times.
Why not? It's a fun word, Immortal. You say it a few times, it just sounds weird.
But yeah, so I mean, they still went over, and then Angel goes back in season 4 when Angel wraps season 4, he gets the medallion and takes it back to Buffy for her final season 7. And then Angel continues for one more season after.
It was just what I was saying. It was just never as contractually easy as it would have been had they been on the same network.
Right.
Where they could have done it much more, and there could have been many moments where it was like, oh, well, this would have been the perfect time for Angel to show up, or Buffy could have shown up here, and this would have made sense story-wise.
They did get around that, though, because didn't season 6, like, when she comes back to life, there's, like, both shows addressed that they went off together?
Yes, that was the
that's how they
cop-out for it. They met up in a motel, and they did it in the comics, is how they got around that. Okay. There's a comic book with...
I hadn't seen the comic.
With them meeting up at this hotel or whatever, and I think they have, like, a little adventure or whatnot. And
okay. Hilarity ensues.
Yes, as it usually does with Buffy.
It's like, oh, I hate to be in that room, and then they're just making tea for each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that will wrap it for season 3. Again, it was a great season. It continuing to hit the steam. Great show, running on all cylinders. Everyone's growing. There's new stuff happening before it starts going off tilt with season 6 would be the last 2 seasons is where things start.
What was that? Jump the shark? Isn't that what they used to call it? Jumping the shark?
Mm-hmm.
Is that still what they call it?
I think we still call it. The old millennials do. Because it references a Happy Days episode. So
right.
It's when the Fonz jumps a thing of sharks, water skiing, wearing his leather jacket in some later season in Happy Days, so they called it Jumping the Shark. But yeah, so they definitely jumped a shark starting with season 6. So that will wrap it for Buffy, and we will move on to episode 4 of American Gods.
I lived my life. Good and bad. Definitely not light as a feather. How did you get caught?
I can make it if you can. Can you wait for me?
You were alive, Laura Moon. Now you are dead.
Which was the Laura episode.
And this episode definitely takes it out of pace with the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, it deviated. It largely deviated from the book. And I read, I can't remember what website I read it on, but somebody wrote an article about how they're really just expanding Laura's story. And I thought, maybe that would have been fine, but they kind of, in my opinion, they completely changed the character of Shadow. Like, he's not the guy that you recognize throughout the book and have come to recognize throughout the series.
I would agree with that. And I'm all for, because in the book, she's mentioned in a few flashbacks with Shadow, and then she just appears periodically in the book. And the way she acts I guess we can just go on record. I didn't care for the episode.
I agree. I didn't.
I think it
I liked
derailed.
the last bit of it, but like maybe the last 15 minutes, but that was about it.
I think it derailed the show from the good pace and like how much it reminded me of the book and how well it was going, and it just kind of slammed the brakes on this show because because they always started the episode with talking about a different vignette, different short story of a different god.
Yes.
And none of that's there. This is straight Laura. Another thing I didn't like about her was she's acting like she's dead already. Like in the book, it implies in the book it implies she was alive because her and Shadow had a great relationship, and after she comes back, she's dead, and she's kind of that muted personality.
Yes.
And here it's like
She was already that dead girl who didn't really. She even says in the episode, "I didn't love my job. I didn't love my family. I didn't." You know, she didn't love all of that. She thought it was utter bullshit that somebody and Audrey, the guy's wife that she had an affair with, was like, "Well, don't live a great life. Don't leave a great obituary." Or something to that effect. That's a paraphrase, obviously. But
did you realize that was Dane Cook?
I did.
The best friend? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, it's Dane Cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Shadow's best friend was played by Dane Cook.
The two things that I loved about this episode, the two biggest things was whenever she's pleasuring Dane Cook in the car, the song "The Wait" by the band was playing, which nobody actually knows. Like, the band refuses to reveal what that song's actually about. They refuse to release the lyrics to that song, actually.
Really?
Which to me is just like, ha ha ha. As a writer, I'm like, I feel you. I know what it's like. Don't ask me what this means. But I liked that was playing because that adds a lot of layers to the scene that already has layers.
See, I don't even remember I'm trying to remember that scene. I mean, I remember the scene, but I don't remember the song.
Right.
So I'm going to have to go back and look
Well,
at it.
I love that song anyway, and because I know that about that song, I was just like, this is perfect. This is the perfect song for this scene, with the discussion that these two people are already having and the situation that they've put themselves in. And then the other scene was whenever Betty Gilpin's character, Audrey, she's an amazing actress. I love watching her in anything. Laura comes to her house to use her craft supplies to sew her arm back on.
Right.
And, like, she's still dispelling fluid, embalming fluid from her body, if you will. So she's on the toilet having this special moment with the toilet. And Betty Gilpin's character, Audrey, is in the bathtub kind of afraid. And they start talking. And she looks at Laura and she's like, "Oh, fuck your feelings." And I was like, that's perfect. That's the perfect line to say. Like who gets to say that to the person who, died?
Had an affair with your husband.
Yeah, and died, like, during the affair, during the act of an affair.
Yes.
And that was just her delivery of that line, and of her delivery of every line in this episode, I just thought was just spot on, and I could really feel that with her.
Yeah, and the episode was called Get Gone, and that was referencing a brand of insect repellent. And was she... Let me ask you this. Do you think she was trying to kill herself, or she was trying to get high at the first? Because there's a scene where she sprays it, and then she gets in the hot tub with it, and then she opens up the thing, and it's like she sprayed it inside with it closed. So I think she was trying to kill herself, but I don't know if there was
That was after she was dead.
No.
No?
No, that was when she first came back, before she met Shadow. It was going through her day, and she got in the hot tub.
Yeah, she was hiding from him because he was coming up the porch.
No, that's where she's carrying her arm. But there was a scene, like, the water was there, like she's spraying it, and she pops open the top, and she's coughing because she sprayed the.
Oh, see, I was thinking that was after she was already dead and had come back.
The only time she gets back in that is when you're right, is when, because she sees Shadow as kind of like a blinding sun, like she's got radar to him.
Then she probably was trying to kill herself then, because I know she had suicidal tendencies. But I was thinking that was because she had flies swarming her because she's decomposing.
No, because there was it was a scene where it shows her coming in, turning off the lights, letting the cat out. She does a boiling egg. You know, she eats it, and then
Yeah.
she sprays the Get Gone stuff, and then it shows her at the hot tub, and she's diving down, and then she gets back up, and then at the canopy, the canopy is closed, and then she's popping it open, and there's smoke coming out, and she's coughing.
Oh, she probably was then, because I know.
Because then later on,
she's suicidal.
Because then later on, when Shadow and her are together, and he's like, "Do you need anything from the store?" She's like, "I need more insect repellent." That's kind of referencing back that moment, like she's still trying to do that, which I don't know.
But for different reasons this time.
Right. I just don't know if that was the best way of going with her character. I'm all for giving more backstory and more fleshing out the characters, but I just don't know if making her that dead before she became dead.
Having her she was kind of a victim of Shadow's, because he was like this super con artist guy or whatever. I just that wasn't believable to me. And maybe that's just because I know what I know about his character.
And in the book, there is something similar where there is a heist gone wrong, and Shadow could have flipped on her, but he didn't.
Right. And the heist wasn't, which in the episode they kind of make it her idea, but I mean...
it totally makes her. I mean, he comes to her first, but then he drops it and falls in love with her.
Yes.
And then she comes back and says, "Let's do it."
Yeah, because she needs some excitement in her life, as it were. So I don't know. It was just very confusing for me as a reader, and then as a viewer, to see that change so abruptly and so dramatically.
And that brings me up to a question I was going to ask you, because I listen to other podcasts that have a lot more listeners than we do at the moment, and they brought it up, like they do a thing at the end where it's like buried treasure, and they mentioned American Gods, and the person that was saying, kind of like watch American Gods, he hadn't read the books, and so he said he's watched these first 3 episodes. He's watched the first 3 at that point in time, and he was totally confused. And the other person who's read the book said, "Oh, it's so great. You really, there's all these, Easter eggs, kind of like what we're doing." So I'm really thinking, if we hadn't read the books, would we know what was going on? Would we understand what was going on? And I don't know if it was just maybe him or he just wasn't getting something, but I genuinely try to think, like, would we understand what was going on if we didn't have these little insights from the book?
Right, and that's a very hard thing. I don't know. Don't you have somebody who has not read the book?
Yes,
who is watching it?
I work with someone, and I'm filling him in on some stuff, but it's not like he was like, "So who is this person? What's going on?" Like, he's getting it for the most part. But I think I did kind of tell him the premise of what the god, because they haven't really got into any of that about them being gods and what that all
that's
that.
not really been laid out blatantly yet.
So if you hadn't done a lot of research into it, or just finding out about it, because I know a lot of the promos talked about gods and stuff like that, but if you just came into it cold and started watching the first 3 episodes, I guess it would be confusing.
Maybe.
Like, what's going on? Who are these people? Why can they do this? What's going? I mean, I was trying to think back, like trying to take myself out of it. Like, is it unapproachable to someone who hasn't read the books or hasn't put any effort into?
That's something I'm going to have to kind of research online now that you have me thinking about it, because in my mind I'm like, well, yeah, it's perfect. It's a great show and it's all laid out there, and there's no reason nobody should understand it. But
yeah, because even when we're reviewing it, we're like, "Oh, that's such a great callback to the book," and we don't like this episode because it doesn't call back to the book like we should want it to.
Right?
So,
yeah.
And we don't like the way
Not
they
to say it's not a good episode. I mean, it's crafted well. It has a great soundtrack. The camera work is amazing, and those tight shots they get, and they shot it differently. They use tighter shots, I guess, to kind of show Laura's isolation more, which that kind of draws back to my visual anthropology classes where I'm drawing that from. But just the style they used has been different from the other 3 episodes, cinematically speaking.
And I guess that would be, I think that's our biggest criticism, is that it's changed the format. And I guess even if you weren't familiar with it would be, this would take it on a wholly different turn. And you may be like, "Oh, this is a fresh," because this is the 4th episode. There's only 8 episodes, like we talked about earlier before the podcast. There's only going to be 8 this season. So we're at the halfway point already, and I don't want it to end.
No.
But,
not ever.
But this may be, some, a breath of fresh air to some people who probably didn't know what's going on, who maybe don't know who Wednesday is.
Yes, and it they probably also wanted that character of Laura fleshed out, because we know as readers kind of her business and she was more than just, kind of Shadow's wife, and I guess in TV you kind of need to flesh that out more.
Right.
It's more important than on the written. That can be. It needs to be less implied and more blatantly expressed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because in writing you can imply things and you don't have to make them blatant.
And then and you can then 4 chapters later become more on the nose, or elaborate more, and you can still have 4 more chapters, 5, 10, even at the very end, pull it all back together at the end. But on a TV show, you need to kind of
lay it all out,
or get it. You don't have that much time frame to lay it all out for later. So yeah, the 4th episode I think is our least favorite of the. We'll say that.
Yes.
Our least favorite so far. The 5th episode is tonight. Looking forward to watching
9 p.m. on Stars.
9 p.m. on Stars. We will we'll be meeting sooner, and then we're not going to be doing for next week. I don't know how that's going to work out. We'll pick a day, but we'll both watch it and come back and continue to review it. And then afterwards, after we get done reviewing it, I guess we'll probably talk about other shows or movies. We've been talking very TV heavily, and that's what we also talked about prior to this podcast. Was we're not really talking about films or more books that we like. So we'll probably, after American Gods wraps, we'll probably start bringing in more different. We'll probably bring in more pop culture references.
It may be like a summer reading episode, maybe.
Yeah, we don't know. We'll let you know. You'll know when we know.
That's the truth.
So that will probably wrap up episode 4 for at least the main parts of it. So we'll end with doing the Would You Rather game. So what we'll probably do is we'll just take turns. That was my phone. I forgot to put on silent. Hopefully, I don't know if that'll come through or not. So if it doesn't come through, I'll just sound even more like a crazy person because I just said, "Oh, that's my phone," in the middle of nowhere. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of take turns reading a Would You Rather, and we'll both answer them.
Okay, absolutely.
So do you want to go first and then ask me, and I'll answer it, and then you can give your answer to it, and then we'll just keep going from there. So you go ahead.
Okay. Would you rather live in a world where Godzilla is real or where zombies are real?
Oh. Okay, I'll start with this, is that both Heather and I know people do this since The Walking Dead, or even before The Walking Dead. We've talked to them. They're out there. Is that every time we go to a building or a different location, we scout it in our minds of the best exit or entry route for zombie, if there was a zombie outbreak.
Or best hiding places, highest places with the easiest access.
We have a rally point. We've talked about it, and I know other people do it too. Now,
we know you're out there.
In the scope of a zombie, okay, so it says a zombie outbreak.
Where zombies are real.
Where zombies are real.
So that doesn't. They could be baggers down at the grocery store.
It could be like Shaun of the Dead, where there's an outbreak, and then we take care of it.
Maybe I keep you in my outbuilding to play video games with. We don't know.
Exactly. Like there may be some chaos at the beginning, and then we're cool.
Yeah.
And then whether Godzilla exists.
Mm-hmm.
I think based on the wording, I would prefer Godzilla, just because that's all the way in Japan.
Right,
I'm on the East Coast. I've got plenty of time if he starts heading this way. Now, if he awarded, live in a apocalyptic zombie world, I would probably go with the zombie thing because, free reign of everything, just that whole, scenario of like, what would you do in a zombie apocalypse? I think I would go with that one.
Yes.
So I think I'd go with Godzilla because that's Japan.
He's way over there.
I mean, even if he hits San Francisco, I'm all the way on the East Coast. Yeah. I'm cool.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
He's got to go through a lot of stuff before.
All the desert, all those mountains, and like he's going to freeze to death going over, the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, he's going to get tired.
Cold.
I mean, there's lots of playground for him. He's got the whole Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
I'm good. So
I think I agree with you on that. I would totally go with the Godzilla.
Yeah.
Just because we're safe. We're over here in the East, so...
Yeah, I don't think it'd be as much fun if we just had zombies, like Shaun of the Dead, how it ended with. They're just like,
Yeah, they're baggers down at the grocery store. It's fine.
Yeah. Which, they make the joke about, us with smartphones are like zombies anyway, so,
That's,
glued to our phones.
it's kind of true, but...
All right, so for mine, would you rather disappear in a puff of smoke like a ninja every time you leave a room, and you're like, done?
Yeah, you could tell by my face. That's... Okay, or?
Okay, have men in black precede you to secure the room every time you enter. So like Secret Service would wherever you show up, 3 or 4 men in black would come in and secure the area, and then you would enter.
Oh no, puff of smoke. All the way. Like, how cool would that be?
I don't know. You were complaining about your neighbor smoking, so it'd be like,
True.
God, the smoke is
it
killing me.
Maybe it wouldn't smell like tobacco smoke. Maybe it would smell like fireworks. And that'd be okay with that.
So just like, okay, well, I think your friends would start getting mad at you because this is every time. Disappear like a ninja every time you leave a room. So it's not like when I'm done for the day. It's like I'm in the living room. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Poof.
Well, you know how I
and then
feel
in the
about
bathroom,
what my
poof.
friends think, so...
And then poof, I'm back. But you know what I mean? Like
like I imagine that my son would be like, Mom, not again.
And it doesn't say that you teleport either. It just says that there's a puff of smoke. So there's a puff of smoke, and then there's you running out.
Which maybe that would just like keep the funny of it. Like you just see me kind of being like, running.
Well, I mean, I guess it's implied because it says like a ninja because you never see them running off, but you do see that on some comedies where it's like smoke screen, and then you see them running.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be even funnier. So you would go with the puff of smoke.
I would. What would you go with?
I don't know. I'm leaning more towards the Men in Black because it just makes you feel like you're all like important.
Yeah, but God, that's some nosy shit going on there.
Well, they secure the room, so it's just like someone would come in and be like, secure. They would just make sure there's no threats, and then you come in.
I ain't that important.
It would make me feel like I'm important. I don't know. The puff of smoke does sound. If you actually disappear and reappear somewhere, I would do the puff of smoke.
That's what I was thinking. Like, some like Xena era Greek god disappearing, reappearing somewhere.
Right. Okay. So first round done.
First round.
How many do you want to do? Like 2 each?
Sure.
2 or 3 each?
Sure.
Okay. So your turn.
Would you rather do your job beside someone who talks to himself all day, or with someone kicking the back of your chair all day?
The guy talking all the time, because I can tune him out, because I work in cubicle world. I hear that all the time. Someone kicking the back of my chair would be too annoying.
Yeah, I would have to turn around and smack the shit out of them. So
yeah, so that one, yeah,
I agree with you on that one.
I can tune it out. I can wear headphones, and I do. So, all right. So here we go. Yours is. That was a quick one, so we might do a third round.
Okay.
Since that was pretty quick. All right. Give up an index finger and have perfect vision, or give up your nipples and never get gray hair.
I would give up my nipples and never get gray hair.
The conceited answer is you give up your nipples.
I've already had LASIK, so.
And it didn't work. Well, this is saying you give up an index finger, which is
this one.
Your pointer.
Yeah, it's
Where's
the number
pointer?
one.
Where's pointer? Here I am. So you would give up an index finger. It doesn't say which hand, so you could still be you're lefty, you're softball. Yeah. So you could give up your right index finger. Mm-hmm. But you'd have perfect vision. Or
I have perfect vision now. I'm 20/20.
But you still need glasses.
That's just for reading. And that's not because it's blurry. It's just because my eyes get tired.
Or give up your nipples and never get gray hair.
Nipples gone. I mean,
which
if I'm
I guess
on
for
Instagram
you that would
naked
be,
anyway, so they would be gone. So.
Which I guess for you that would be kind of, in the bedroom situation, which would be harder, giving up an index finger or not having any nipples.
I'd still, damn it, I'd still give up the index finger.
You would still give up your index finger or give
Uh-huh.
up your nipples
No, I'd still give up the nipples
for the no gray hair?
for no gray hair.
Right.
Because, I mean, if I had gray hair, I might not make it to the bedroom. That may not be true. I don't know. Maybe I'd look like a silver
I
fox.
was going to say the silver fox. You never know.
But I don't know.
Okay. So your answer is give up your nipples that never have gray hair.
Free the nipples. Absolutely.
All right. My answer, I was just giving you a hard time. I'd probably do the nipple thing too. Because I'm already getting gray in my goatee and stuff, and I hate it. I'm getting little white hairs as it grows out. I hate it. And
I've had one in the eyebrow and one up here.
but then again, I mean, if you're thinking about it logically, you can dye your hair, and you can get LASIK. So I mean, these would you rather? There's
Right.
Yeah. So all right, one more round. You got your turn.
Okay, would you rather have a free phone plan with unlimited data, but only be able to call 5 people? Or have unlimited free internet, but only be allowed to go to the same 5 websites?
The first one.
Absolutely.
I don't call anybody. I text everybody. So
Yeah, if I'm forced to call you, then
I
there's
only call
probably
5
something
people.
wrong.
Well, less than 5. My wife, my mom, everyone else I text, and
Yeah.
I people at work. If so
Should the need arise.
is the need arises. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, unlimited data.
Yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't choose unlimited data?
And then what would even be your 5 websites? I mean, like 5 website. Like
Yeah.
Reddit. So you can get everything. I guess.
I guess so, yeah. Reddit and I guess you would just need Reddit because you could get everything you need, fandom stuff.
But would you be able to click out like if they had links?
I guess not because
Just says 5 websites.
yeah.
If you have unlimited data, could you get torrent sites? Then you can just
See?
download everything because
Yeah.
it's unlimited free internet. All right,
Not if you're being watched by the man.
like Heather is,
Yeah.
because there's a file. There's
There's a
NSA.
file.
There's an NSA file because you've searched out how to find a new identity, and this podcast is going to go live where we're talking about blowing shit up.
Yep.
So
and, I'm
it's
in
going
academia.
Yeah. So here's your final one.
Okay.
All right.
Go.
Would you rather feel like you're about to fall every time you take a step, which you already do,
Yeah.
or would you rather feel a constant itch in your crotch whenever you stand still? So would you rather feel like you're about to fall every time you take a step? So it's
Yeah.
not just or feel a constant itch in your crotch whenever you stand still. So while you're moving, you're fine, but whenever you stand still,
That's
you
really
feel
really
an itch
hard.
in your crotch.
Like I've not often felt an itch in my crotch, but I have often felt the falling, taking a step. I'm going to go with the itch in the crotch because that falling feeling is horrible, and there's not enough volume in the world sometimes.
Well, it says standing still, so if you're sitting,
Right? I could shake a leg all the time,
yeah.
even standing. I mean, like I'd probably be built like a brick shit house by the end of it, at least from the waist down, but I wouldn't have an itchy crotch.
All right, so mine. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
Feel like you're about to fall every time you take a step. So there wouldn't be any time you're not, but you could be driving and stuff and be totally fine. You just every time you step, which is a lot.
And that'd
Or
be stairs, going upstairs, downstairs.
Or feel a constant itch in your crotch whenever you stand still. So whenever you're not moving, you're okay. I would go with that one. The itch. Because
The itch.
if I'm able to sit, and as soon as I get up, I just keep moving.
Yeah. No crotch itch.
I'll go back to peeing sitting down, I guess.
Hey, some guys do that, and that's okay.
All right, so that will wrap it up for Would You Rather for this week. I enjoyed that. I'm liking
Absolutely.
these questions. Again, as we wrap up this episode of Reach the Masses, shout out to us. We have a Twitter. We have Gmail, reachthemass@gmail.com. We have a Twitter, which is also
At Reach the Mass.
At Reach the
just
Mass.
MAS.
Go on to iTunes and like us. We also are trying to get it on Google Play. I'm still working on that, but we're also on archive.org if you just type in Reach the Masses.
We also have a YouTube station now.
Oh, yes, we're also on YouTube. So go on
Reach the
YouTube.
Masses.
Go on. There's lots of different areas for you to go on, like us, subscribe to us, give us a shout out, tell us what you think, what things you enjoy. If you enjoyed it, things that we missed, we want to hear from you. So just reach out to us on any of those platforms.
And tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. We're always glad to see people listening, and we want to hear from you, good, bad, or indifferent. Well, that will wrap up episode 4. We've got 4 down, so we will end it with that.
All right.
For Reach the Masses, I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.